Today we're embarking on one of the biggest concepts that we have in Secondary 1. This is an area where we're going to be spending a lot of time. Specifically, we are talking about systems of equations. At the level we're currently at, I feel okay missing this particular day because I think this is something you'll be able to figure out. One way to solve systems of equations is by graphing. Now, when you see a system of equations, the way you can usually tell is that there are going to be two or more equations. They're usually tied together with a fancy bracket, kind of like that. Your homework doesn't do that for whatever reason, the program, CUDA. But generally, you will see something like that. From here, it's really not too bad. Essentially, what you have to do is just graph the two lines that you were given. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my XY axes. I'm going to go ahead and start with the top line. I'll do so in blue. Notice this is already in slope-intercept form. Now, slope-intercept form gives you two things. Keep in mind the generic version of that is y is equal to mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So once again, we have both of the ingredients here. We have our slope and we have our y-intercept. So we simply start at the y-intercept, which is the place where the line crosses the y-axis. In this case, that is at -1. And then we can use our slope to find the next point. Now keep in mind, the nickname for slope is rise over run. So in this case, our rise is 4 and our run is 3. So we're going to rise up 4 and run 3. We can do the same thing in the other direction. Go down 4 and then over to the left 3. Make sure that if you're going negative one way, you have to go negative both ways for a positive slope. From here, that's enough that we can go ahead and connect the dots. That's close enough for what we're doing. Even though it didn't perfectly go through that dot right there, we'll be okay. Now let's go ahead and look at our next equation. Y is equal to 1/3 x plus 2, where 1/3 is our slope and 2 is our y-intercept. So let's go ahead, start at 2. Same idea, our rise in this case is 1, and our run is 3. So we're going to go up 1, over 3. I'm going to do the same thing the other direction as well. From here, we can go ahead and connect our dots to make a line. Now here's the very important part of this. You'll notice that at this point right here, our two lines cross. That is the answer to the problem. You have to tell me where those two lines cross in x, y ordered pair format. Keep in mind an ordered pair, x, comma, y. Make sure that you tell me that in this case, to find that point, you have to go over 3, up 3, giving us 3, comma 3 for the answer. I expect you to have this for every single problem with a big old box around it because that is what I'm really looking for on an assessment. That is what I'm grading. The lines themselves are nice, but what I'm looking for is the point where the two lines cross. You have to tell me it every time. If you don't, I will mark it wrong. I want to do another example problem. In this case, I've chosen number 9. It's right here. You'll notice that the two lines in this case are not in slope-intercept form. They are in standard form. Some of the equations I've given you on this assignment aren't even in standard form. They're just kind of jumbled up x's and y's. If I were you, here's how I would go about solving this problem. Now, what you'll recall from yesterday, you can solve this problem by finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Still a valid way of doing the problem. If that makes sense to you, go for it. Kind of what I would expect most of you to do is to take an equation like this and solve for y. So let's do so. I'm going to do so in blue for this top equation. I'll do the same in a different color for the bottom one. We have 6x plus 4y is equal to 4. We need to solve for y. I'm probably going to subtract the 6x first. Now I'm going to rewrite this equation down here. We're going to have 4y is equal to, and I'm going to write it negative 6x plus 4. The reason I did that is I want it to match as close to our slope-intercept form as possible. You could write that 4 minus 6x, that is also correct, just so long as you recognize what you're doing. I'm going to keep it this way for now, though. From here, we can go ahead and divide by 4 to everything. And then we just have to simplify. We get y is equal to negative 3 over 2x. I'm going to bump the x out behind it. Plus 1, because 4 divided by 4 becomes 1. Notice I simplified my fraction here. I recommend that you do so. Technically, they're equivalent things, so you could get away without doing it. But sometimes you'll end up with fractions that are bigger than your, your Cartesian coordinate system. And that just makes it a little bit harder. It's easier if you reduce it in that case. So once again, we'll go ahead and start at our first point, at our 1. We're going to rise negative 3, which means we're going down 3. We're going to run positive 2. Oh, good. We've got a negative slope coming on this graph because we have a negative right here. And as we go from right to left, I can see that the points are going down. I misspoke. I meant to say left to right. I'm going to do the same thing in the other direction. Find our 3 points. I always encourage you to find 3 when we're doing this. Make your line, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this bottom equation. I'm going to do it in green. I'm going to move down just a little bit. Negative 18 is equal to negative 3x minus 6y. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here, which is not a step that you have to do, but just to try to make it as clear as possible, I'm going to do this as a math teacher. I'm going to rewrite this as negative 3x minus 6y is equal to negative 18, simply because we're used to seeing the numbers on the right-hand side. So from here, we can go ahead and solve it. Pretty straightforward. I don't think this is where we're going to really struggle. We're going to add 3x to both sides. Once again, I'm going to rewrite it so it's negative 6y is equal to 3x minus 18 to make it as close to our slope-intercept form as possible. From here, we're going to divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6. Which will give us, I'm going to go this way. We're going to get y is equal to negative 3 over 6x minus 18 over 6. 18 over 6 is going to become 3. Notice they're both negative, so we're going to turn that into a positive sign. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this fraction down. That'll be negative 1/2 x plus 3. So if we're graphing the line y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 3, we'll start at this point right there. We can go rise over run. In this case, our rise is 1. We'll go up 1 over negative 2. We can do the same thing by going down 1 over positive 2. Once again, we have a negative slope, so our line's going to be going down as we look at it from left to right. As always, I encourage you to find 3 points at least. And then from there, I'm going to try that line again because it's not particularly through the points. That one's better. We go ahead and create our lines. Once again, you'll see that we have our point right there where the 2 lines are crossing. That appears to be at the point negative 2, 4. So our answer here is actually negative 2, 4. You have to graph it to find this answer for right now, but the answer itself is actually where the 2 lines cross. As always, let me know if you have questions.